I knew that, hey, if I could get into larger scale multifamily, and at the time I was looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 units, I knew that the valuation, based on NOI, I could control a lot more of the value. And so, basically in 2015, I kind of started that journey to kind of get into multifamily larger scale.
Welcome to The Real Deal, a commercial real estate investing podcast. I'm your host, Aman Shahi. There's a ton going on in the world right now, and much of it impacts real estate investors. The Real Deal podcast will take a look at what's happening and how it influences you as a real estate investor. Each episode is a 20-minute segment dedicated to distilling the day's most important news, so you can stay up to date on what's going on in the world and how it might affect the commercial real estate market.
Welcome everybody to another show of the Real Deal podcast. Today we have another guest. His name is Shane Thomas. Hey Shane, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Aman.
So give us a 30-second introduction who you are.
All right. Shane Thomas, based out of Houston, Texas. Been, in the multifamily business for about 6 to 7 years now. We've got a portfolio of close to 2,000 units in Texas. And we've got a small team. Our bread and butter is value add multifamily. And we've also got a construction company that we really recently started. So yeah, that's a quick high level background.
So how did you get into real estate when you just started?
Yeah, no, good question. So I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. And I've had the real estate bug for, since I was a kid, at least since I could remember. So upon graduating college in 2010, I started buying some single family condos and whatnot in Toronto, just knowing that, hey, I wanted that to be part of my investment portfolio, more for long-term, kind of wealth preservation and creation. And so did that, like I said, 13 years ago. I moved to the U.S. for work. I'm a former, CPA and did management consulting for Big Four company, and was working my tail off from 2010 till 2015 in Chicago. And then, decided at that time, had got married, and we were expecting our first daughter, and, real estate had done well for me in Toronto. And I wanted to kind of make the pivot in the U.S., and so, at the time, I was only in single family, and being kind of a finance guy and looking to scale a little bit, I knew that, hey, if I could get into larger scale multifamily, and at the time I was looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 units, I knew that the valuation, based on NOI, I could control a lot more of the value. And so, basically in 2015, I kind of started that journey to kind of get into multifamily larger scale. And we could talk more about that, from that point on.
And how did you get into large multifamily? Like, how did you acquire your first deal?
Yeah. So my journey began in 2015. I was looking to actually buy I was actually looking to buy a small deal, like 15 to 20 units, and I spent a lot of time, talking to brokers, building my own model and looking for deals in Chicago. But then, long story short, it's kind of a blessing in disguise. Nothing worked out. And I just my offers weren't getting accepted. And, I stumbled across, passive investing. So there was a few folks that I had met that were buying, large deals, 100, 150, 200 unit properties. And I was, kind of surprised and intrigued. And I said, hey, how do you do it? They had regular W-2 jobs or whatnot. And so anyway, I started learning more, and, I basically started investing as an LP in 2015, in a few deals. And, at that point in time, it was more of a win-win. I had a little bit of capital to deploy. I wanted to learn. I wanted to make my money work for me. And you don't get to see like fully under the hood, if you will, but you get to understand the process, of being an LP and how these deals are structured. And then fast forward a year or so after my first LP investment, I was, investing more LP wise. I was networking more, met my now business partner at an event in Dallas. And, And he was also investing as an LP, and we had synergies, and basically said, hey, with our synergies, let's just try to do one deal. We didn't even consider like, hey, we're gonna go build a company and all this stuff. We just said, hey, let's just try to do one deal. And after a lot of work and effort and rejection, we ended up, after the first meeting and working through it, I mean, it took us probably over, I think, 12 months or 14 months. And we closed on our first deal in a suburb of Houston, about 125 units, just under $6 million purchase price in 2017.
And with the first deal, what did you learn from that deal? Like, what was the main lesson that you get it?
Wow, I mean, I could probably write a book. There was ton of lessons. I mean, I think the reality is that the team is super critical, and at that time we didn't have a team like we have now with employees and whatnot, but just having partners that play different roles, so we found the deal. We did all kind of the heavy lifting. We brought in somebody with experience, who had done 20 deals in multifamily prior to that, who was local to Houston, helped sign on the loan, got the bank comfortable, and so there was the team was one huge lesson. The other thing is that your performas, obviously we want to be conservative, and as realistic as possible. Looking back, one of the biggest lessons I learned on that deal is how much importance you have to give to capitalizing your deals well, right? And so it was a Class C deal, that needed some work, and we bought the deal, performed well, sold it. But looking back, we probably should have had double the amount of capex that we had originally allocated. And I think oftentimes folks, you get started in the business, you're excited, and everything, you could make anything look good on a spreadsheet. And so yes, if you raise more money or if you allocate more cost to capital, your returns are going to get diluted, right? But now, and since that deal, we've always overcapitalized every deal, because, these are apartment buildings, they're generally, the ones we buy are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old in some cases. Things break. And there's a lot of stuff, below the line, that, is going to eat your cash flow if you don't have the funds allocated. So that was, another lesson learned. I think we fired two management companies on that deal, and within the first 6 months, so we're getting into our first deal ever. And, we had to make some tough decisions. It's never easy to fire a management company and then restart and, communicating to investors, but those were the right decisions because those management companies weren't performing. And so we learned a lot about, hey, good management companies and matching management companies with the particular property and location, and so tons of lessons learned, but yeah, those are just a few.
And you mentioned something about communicating with your investors. How important that is to communicate regularly? How often do you communicate with them?
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the most important things in not just business is in life. I think your investors are investing their hard-earned money. Obviously, they know or should know that it's an investment, and any investment has a level of risk, and that should all be disclosed up front. But that's one of the things that I learned as an LP. So I was in several deals as an LP before we did it. Started as a GP, and some of the sponsors were great. They were communicating every month, and kind of you really felt like you kind of knew what was going on. Whether it was good news or bad news. Some sponsors just went in the dark, things, and those, when, the saying I like is no news is bad news, so people would assume, and I would assume like, hey, there's what's going on with this deal. And so, when we set out to do our, start as a GP and start our company, we said communication is paramount. It's actually one of our core values internally. And we communicate, and I tell my team, if people say we get too many emails from Catalyst Equity, that's okay. Whether it's good news or bad news, we communicate. General cadence is every month. We have our sponsor commentary attached with summarized financials, attached with detailed financials. Every quarter, we do more of a detailed, kind of presentation. Annually, we do webinars. And then on an as needed basis, we'll even increase the frequency even further. So when COVID hit, we were updating our investors on a weekly basis. And so I think that's, one area where, I think, we definitely do a good job. And it's, we get a lot of feedback, good feedback from folks. It's quite frankly one of the areas that sets us apart from our competitors that, just don't do a good job of that.
So you're saying over communication is better than under communication.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Since it was your first deal as a GP, how hard was it to raise a capital? Because you did not have a track record as a GP.
Yeah, great question. And I look back right now, and I mean, the first deal was, it was a $2 million raise. And I think, in any market, that's, obviously it's raising money is something that you have to kind of build to, right? I think what we did well was we didn't just jump into like, hey, I'm going to get into this business and then all of a sudden start raising money, right? Like I was in the business for like a year and a half, meeting people, networking, investing as an LP. So was my partner. And so we were socializing that with folks, whether it's our personal networks or external networks, and people knew that we were in this business. Yes, it was our first time doing GP, right? But we surrounded ourselves with folks. We made our intentions known that this is what we plan to do, and this is kind of our deal criteria. This is the projected returns. So yeah. I mean, it wasn't easy, but and then I try to break everything down into small pieces, right? There was three of us on the GP team, $2 million plus or minus. So each of us had to raise, 700 or so. And we just broke it down. And I think all that time leading up, helped at least build our reputation and track record that these guys they just didn't show up yesterday and now we're raising money. Right. And so yeah, I think we got, the money raised in less than 2 weeks for our first deal. And yeah, and we just built from there.
And how many meetups were you going every week during that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was at meetups left, right, and center. I mean, local meetups. If you ask my wife, I mean, I was going to weekend meetups, and it was a commitment and sacrifice. And there's a lot of other stuff that you could be doing. I was in my late 20s at the time, and but I just knew this is what I wanted to do, and knew what we had to sacrifice. And so I was probably going to at least a meetup a week, between in local versus going traveling for meetups. And yeah, so in the beginning we networked and went to a lot. I mean, I would say I'm still very active, and I go and I connect, and I'm going to a meetup tonight. But I'm more selective. But yeah, back 6 years ago when we started, I mean, and then look, and the reality is that some of the meetups you go to, you realize like this is probably the first and last time you're going to, right? Because it is, if it's not the right subject matter or the right group of people, but you go to enough of these, and one of the things that we talked about before recording, and that I talk to most people, is that no one's gonna come to your door and give you a check. And so the more that you go out and people see you, and I used to host a meetup as well, and you could see the folks that come for one meetup, never again, right? And then you could see the folks that come every month or whatnot, and they're consistent, they follow up, right? It's like anything in life, right? It's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the folks are doing 80%, are getting 80% of the results. And so how do you position yourself to be that 20%? And are you committed and disciplined enough to see it through?
And it's a pretty personal question. So many people say they're introvert, they don't like to go and talk, but they still want to be a GP.
Yeah.
How can those people, become GP if they're not even ready to talk?
Yeah, I think That's a good question, and I think there's different schools of thought. I mean, look, I think naturally, I was an introvert, growing up, but I think when you have something of value and you think it could help people and there's win-win, it's, yes, obviously we're trying to, encourage folks that, hey, this is a good investment opportunity and here's why. But, the reality is if that's not your strong suit, you got to find a team member that has that strong suit, and at the end of the day, I think, in business, sales and marketing is critical. And a lot of folks that, wouldn't consider themselves sales folks, you kind of have to wear that hat, learn that hat, or find people on your team that could have that hat. And so yeah, I mean, I've seen several, groups, partnerships where, some folks are really analytical. They're the, kind of operations, kind of the engineering type that wants kind of more of the back office. And then there's the more outgoing folks that, and so that's a great partnership. And so I think, what I would say is a key element to, success, especially in business, is self-awareness. Like, you really have to understand what you're good at. And I've had to learn this over time. I would say I would encourage folks to double down on their strengths and find others or outsource their weaknesses. I think a lot of times, going through school or work or whatnot, kind of we're kind of forced to kind of work on your weaknesses, and when somebody's not passionate about something, they're never going to get the results of, what somebody that's truly passionate about, something can, and so anyway, so I would say, long story short is, if that's not you, build a team that has all the pieces that you need to do these deals.
And same thought came into my mind. Nobody's gonna come and give you the check. You have to
Right.
go and talk. You have to go and add the value.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And let's talk about your company, Catalyst Equity Partners. Can you tell us, like, when did you set up the company, and how much have you raised, and how many units that you have, and how are you managing? What kind of projects are you guys doing now?
Yeah. 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 So we started the company over 6 years ago, 2017, early 2017, and based in Texas. My partner Prashant is in Dallas. I'm in Houston. When we started, it was just him and I. We did everything, from admin and marketing, acquisitions, asset management, construction management, everything under the sun. And we have complementary skill sets, which help. And, we were both fully committed, from the get go. And so yeah, we started, and then, we did, I think three deals, before we started hiring. We just, learned everything we could. And then we realized that after 3 or 4 deals, that in order to continue to grow and to effectively, asset manage and do everything well, we would have to hire, or we'd have to stop, and so yeah, so just to kind of fast forward, I mean, we've done, just shy of 2,000 units as, lead GPs. Our deals are split between Dallas and Houston. We've got, I would say 70% of our portfolio was, Class C, workforce housing. We were buying in, 2017, 2018, when there was a spread in cap rates between A, B, and C. We've got a couple B deals, now, and then we've also bought, a few A minus deals in the last, 12 to 18 months. So we've not done any development yet. We look for a true value add. We love transforming properties. That's kind of our bread and butter. I mean, 10, 15,000 a unit rehabs, exterior rehabs, and yeah, we look for high growth markets. We're continuing to look to buy. I mean, we bought 2 deals last year, refied a deal this year, sold a deal. I mean, we're in the market. We're, slowly, like I said, we've got a construction company. So now we're starting to offer third party construction services in terms of value add to folks. We're, in the beginning stages of, looking at some small multifamily development, But our core is value add multifamily, and that's what we've just focused on. We've not just dabbled on. Some people kind of get the shiny object syndrome. They go from one to another. We focused the last 5 to 6 years 100% and try to build the best processes that we can be. And now we've got a team. We've got asset manager, acquisitions, marketing. We do construction in house. So we've got 6, 7 employees, and we've got some virtual assistants and some folks that help us 1099. And yeah, we our goal is to be a boutique, but private equity real estate company, and kind of our next steps will continue to do what we do. We've raised close to $70 million of equity. We've got a few co-GPs that have contributed to that as well, but majority, has been from Catalyst. And yeah, we're fortunate with our, it's all, high net worth, equity, and, kind of the next steps is to continue that. And, we're positioning ourselves, for family office, private equity, et cetera, as well.
You mentioned something about you have to hire, otherwise you have to stop. So you leverage your labor to third party, third person. So can you talk about leverage in real estate business? What kind of other leverages are there?
Yeah, I mean, I think look, leverage as a word, sometimes gets people skittish. I mean, every people think like, oh, I don't want to have debt, or there's all these schools of thought, like I want to pay off, X, Y, and Z. I think it all depends on what you're buying and what you're using the leverage for, right? Like financial leverage, obviously, debt with real estate is the most accretive returns. I mean, you don't see a lot of folks buying, rental property all cash, because you can get good debt, positive leverage, in most cycles, and you can multiply your money, and you get depreciation benefits and whatnot. So that's in real estate, I think, is the best example of being able to use good financial leverage. But leverage, obviously, utilizing other folks, and I think that's yeah, look, I'm a former CPA and accountant, and in the beginning I was kind of taking the lead on reviewing our books and monthly P&Ls and whatnot. I hadn't practiced accounting in 5, 6 years, but I knew enough to be dangerous. But I was competent in it, but my heart was not in it, and it, I left accounting many years ago for a reason, and so I think the mindset that fortunately that my partner and I have is that let's hire folks that are experts in what they do and enjoy doing it, and we're all working on what we enjoy and are experts. You could do a lot more, and I think in the beginning, sometimes you don't know when you're starting a company, like, hey, do I invest, in this person or this technology, or do I try to cut corners and try to, get one person to be the jack of all trades? And when you do that, they may be good at one thing, but not the two other roles. And I think after a lot of trials and tribulations, we've come to the realization that it's best to hire for competency. Obviously, they have to, mold into your company and have the right, kind of cultural fit. But I think having that competency is key, because you could just do so much more. I mean, I read there's a saying, right? Like, if you hire somebody and you have to tell them what to do, you may have to tell them your process and stuff like that, but you have to tell them how to do their job. You didn't hire the right person, right? And so that kind of struck a chord with me. Like, hey, you're hiring somebody for their expertise. They should be telling you what to do. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And can you share us something about your deal where something went wrong and how did you fix it?
Look, I mean, there's this is the people business, and I mean, there's something going on at each property every single day, and so I mean, there's several examples. There's tenant examples, and I'll just maybe bring out a capex example. One of our older deals, it has a HVAC system that is kind of centralized. Like one building, it's like you have to have all heat or all cold. One of the days, hot summer day in Texas, the compressor went out. And so that's, obviously, and these are not parts that are like readily available at Home Depot and whatnot. I mean, we try to, back order them and make sure we have, we're minimizing our risk. But in this particular example, it was kind of a long weekend, and we literally had to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatnot, and buy everyone external ACs just to kind of have for the weekend while we could get the compressor fixed. And so there's it is capital intensive. There's plumbing, especially on these older deals, stuff that you can't see. You do your due diligence up front. You scope lines and whatnot, but I think on any Class C kind of 60s deal in Texas, I mean, most owners will relate. I mean, you're going to have plumbing issues every, recurring, and if you have the capital and you have the wherewithal to know that that's going to happen and you allocate for it, you'll be fine. I think what happens is that when you don't have the capital, that's when things go sideways.
And
So
you mentioned about AC. I'm like, I can relate to that because I cannot stay without AC.
yeah. And I mean, it's 100 degrees in Texas, humidity. I mean, it's, there's so anyway, so we had to pivot there. And, look, COVID, was another example. I mean, folks were losing jobs and whatnot. And, obviously the government stepped in and helped, residents as well as owners and whatnot. But there was a lot of kind of compromise, and you have to be compassionate and understand that, hey, we're all trying to do the right thing, and work with residents, and most of that is behind us now. But I mean, look, we're in the business of solving problems. I mean, that's literally what asset management is. And every day, we try to ensure that we're proactive, and that's why we've got dashboards and KPIs and whatnot. But inevitably in this business, there's always something that comes up, and we have to troubleshoot.
And in this market, we are saying economy is pretty bad, and everybody's saying recession is here, this and that, yada yada yada. How are you changing your criteria to buy or investment or anything?
Yeah, look, it's I started investing in 2010, so it was, and it was post GFC, or kind of in the middle of it. And look, I think the reality is that when I started in 2015 and 2016, there was folks around me that were saying, "Oh, prices are too high right now. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait." And those folks are still waiting. They, in 2020, when COVID hit, everyone said, "Hey, everything's fallen to the ground," and everyone missed a big window there. Look, the way I see a lot of things is that I don't think necessarily it's always a good time to sell, because, there's certain dynamics that may not be in your favor. Interest rates are high and whatnot, but you can always find opportunities to buy in any market, and I think, being, timing the bottom is a fool's errand. I think it's impossible to do. And, some, you could get lucky and whatnot, but I just think time in the market is key. And we don't buy these things to flip in 6 months or 12 months. I mean, our projections are generally 5 to 6 years. I mean, there's been some deals, we've got floating rate debt on a couple, and fortunately we've got rate caps. But by and large, it's, we've got a long-term duration, and we ensure we have the capital structure, the CapEx, the reserve funds to withstand. And so right now I think is a great time to buy. Honestly, I think it reminds me of, 6 months after COVID. There's a lot of fear in the market. And, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and not all commercial real estate is the same. I think, a lot of people kind of bulk it into one bucket, and, there's office, that's, probably a lot more challenging than, multifamily or industrial right now, office and malls and stuff, it's different. So, we're looking for deals. Obviously, our underwriting has changed to, take into account higher interest rates and higher cap rates and whatnot. But we're still and finding deals. I mean, we're making offers weekly. I've got a couple active offers out right now. Prices are down, I would say, anywhere from 10 to 20% from the peak. And so yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that are pencils down and on the sidelines, and you can't win any sport on the sidelines. You'd be a, couch quarterback, if you will. And we try to stay in the game, stay plugged in. And, because we focus so much on value add multifamily, I think we know, hey, this is good real estate, this is good basis. And, there's a lot of capital on the sidelines. Multifamily, and at least what we do is, has the lowest risk out of all commercial real estate classes, right? So now you're starting to see pension funds and whatnot all increasing their allocation to multifamily, reducing their allocation to office, and so yeah, so we're actively, we're in the market. Is it easy? No. I mean, deal volume is, down 80, 85% maybe. But there's still deals out there.
And how hard it is to raise the capital right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we raised, on two deals last year, and this is kind of, one was before the, big Fed acceleration of interest rate. One was during, and fortunately with our teams, we were able to get those done without a lot of heartburn. I've got a lot of peers in the business, and it's definitely, as I understand it, harder. I think, there's, like I said, lower deal flow. So you would think that, there'd be more capital. And I think there is capital. I think there's just a lot of fear. So, folks are, just, whereas 2 years ago, it was like there was so much deal flow and everyone was investing and whatnot. It was hard to raise capital at that time, because people were like, oh, wow, there's too many deals. And now, there's less deals, but I think people are just, more cognizant, and, there's uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, most, folks just kind of hold on. So, but I think, look, if you have the right track record, you have the right deal, and have the right conviction, you, those are good ingredients, to be able to get a deal done in today's
Mm,
market.
yeah. And what kind of loan to value are you using for underwriting today? Because keep changing.
Yeah, that's a good question. And just for context, I mean, I think historically we've been, more of a 75%, yeah, kind of LTV shop, across all markets from 2017 when we started through now. That's kind of been 70 to 75%. Today, realistically, you're looking at, plus or minus 60% for agency. And I think there's a lot of shifting tides and thoughts in terms of financing, and bridge loan is kind of a bad word right now, but the reality is that a bridge loan is what it is. It's a bridge, right? And I think where people, there was a lot of exuberance, is like you're using bridge loans when that wasn't the intended use of it, and there's deals right now that, that are qualified for bridge because, they're under market rents, it's been owned for 25 years by the same group. They're 80% occupied when they should be 95%, like that's when you use a bridge loan, and so, we try to match the business plan with the debt. But I think, in today's market, generally it's, you could get 65% to cost bridge loan, 65, 70% maybe. But by and large, the biggest capital provider are the agencies. And, it all depends on the cap rate, but based on where cap rates are, call it plus or minus 5%, you're looking at 60%.
Wow. Yeah, I remember I've seen some deals with 45% LTV.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's there's, obviously the lower the leverage, the lower the risk. You got to bring a lot more to the table. I mean, for us, 60% still works. And it's all about, your horizon, your investor, kind of appetite, and so, there's nothing wrong with 40%, but generally those folks are long-term holders, or they'll come up with some type of secondary financing to get that to 60, 70%. There's so many different ways to skin the cat. We've generally just try not to get too cute, in the sense that, like, get a debt and then put pref and mez. And, I think, senior loan and come up with equity. And if, for us, 70%, feels, relatively lower risk, and so yeah.
And I remember in last 2 years, everybody was like, "Oh, we are getting bridge loan, bridge loan." Now nobody wants to even look at it.
Yeah. It goes. I think, and then, we've definitely had some lessons learned on debt. I mean, we used to put fixed rate, 10 or 12 year loans on our deals. That, from a security standpoint, yes, feels good. We don't got a maturity, but it comes with significant prepayment penalties. I mean, there's, a few deals that, we're selling that we've got, multiple seven figures, in prepayment penalty, and so you got to really match your business plan to the debt, and so if you got a 5 to 6 year business plan, does a 12-year loan make sense, but if you got a 10-year business plan, then maybe a 12-year loan makes sense, and so I think, and same thing with bridge loans, right? You don't just get a bridge loan for the sake of getting it because you could get the leverage, bridge loan is a bridge. It's supposed to take you from A to B, and so I think if you use the debt, for what its intended use is, you'll be fine.
Yeah. And before we wrap this up, I'm going to ask you two more questions. First is, if you have to go back in time, restart everything again, what would you do different?
That's a great question. And honestly, I'm not one to have many regrets. I think, what's kind of got me here is kind of this journey, look, I mean, I think the easy answer is I wish I started earlier and bought more, but, I think, it would just be, really building a team sooner and faster. I think, there's always going to be, kind of the doubt in your mind, and depending on what your background is and whatnot, to say, hey, should I take this risk or not? I think looking back, if you have confidence in something, you got to really burn the bridge, and go all in. I think, having one foot in, having one foot out is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. And I just think building the team, faster and sooner, probably one thing I'd change.
And imagine today is your last day on the world. What message do you want to give to the world?
I mean, I think, at the end of the day, I've got three little kids, and I've worked a lot in my 20s and 30s, and the reality is that I saw this recently, is that no one's gonna think about you for how much you worked. Only you'll remember that. And I think having some balance, and balance doesn't mean like there's going to be times in your life where you're going really, really hard at something, right? But having that ability to kind of step away, be present with your families, your hobby and whatnot, I think is really important. And, I think I didn't do a good job of that in probably, kind of the early stages of, kind of building this. But I'm mindful of it now. And I think I'm taking the steps, and, and like I said, I've got three little kids, and they're only going to be young for so long. So, so yeah, I think, just do things with intent, and surround yourself with people that, are like-minded, are going to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's a beautiful. And if somebody wants to reach out to you, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. Pretty active on LinkedIn. So Shane Thomas, you could find me there. You could email me at Shane, SHANE, at catequity.com. And then you could also go to our website, which is catequity.com. We've got a few free resources there, multifamily. We've got an asset management ebook. You could schedule a call with us. Would be happy to connect with anyone, that's interested in the space.
All right. Thank you, Shane. Thank you for your time. And I'll see you another one.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us on The Real Deal, a commercial real estate investing podcast, the show that covers everything to do with multifamily real estate investing to help you become an expert in your real estate ventures. We're here to help you create passive income and financial freedom so that you can achieve what you want whenever you want. We'll catch you next time on The Real Deal.